It's time now for our Ask the Mayor program on KWBE, heard every Thursday morning at this time as we welcome in Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan to our studios. Good morning, Mayor. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Dave. How about yourself?
Doing well. This weather is just so nice. I just love it.
So I think what you told me was that we had our cold spell and now we've moved into the nice weather. Is spring already?
I wish. I wish.
I don't think that was you. That was somebody else.
Was that somebody else? But I wish, because I'm not a winter person. I don't care for the cold. I don't care for the snow, and I love what we're having now. But I do know that it's not going to be here forever. So
no. But
just one of those things.
We will enjoy it while we have it.
We will. Did you go out and see the Northern Lights the last couple of nights?
No, I didn't. I should have.
A lot of photos on Facebook. People are out and about taking pictures. Look pretty cool. So.
It really is. It just reminds you how cool Mother Nature really is.
Yeah.
We're pretty, and I'm sure we're pretty blessed because I'm sure there's places in larger populations such as cities that wouldn't even realize that the Northern Lights were going on.
Very true. Very true. That is so true.
We can find a darker space not by driving not very far.
Not at all. Well, we had Veterans Day this past Tuesday. I know we had programs out at the high school and programs in the area, and just again a big hats off to all the veterans of the area.
Absolutely. I think it would be. I think it's always really cool. When you have Veterans Day, you go down to Veterans Memorial and you see all the flags that are around there. You see all the flags that are at the courthouse. I thank the county because I think they've done a good job of, really showcasing the county and the city with the lights that they do and the flags that they do. And Veterans Park is just a great opportunity. So there's a lot of people who drive through there. But I think it's great that we really take the time to really salute those veterans and the ones that sacrificed their lives in all of the wars. I know it goes back to World War I, Armistice Day as we move forward. But again, I just want to thank all the veterans and for their service because, our country is free. Our country is able to move forward, and sometimes it has discourse and some protesting, but all of those privileges that we have were defended by everyone who bared arms and protected the freedom, the citizenship and the democracy that we have. And so I think it's just worth mentioning again. Thank you very much. When you think about it, it really became a community event. You saw the buses pick up folks from the American Legion. I happened to be driving somewhere that day, and they had the really cool, the motorcycle brigade from the American Legion that were escorting the two buses out to the school. I happened to listen yesterday and hear the feedback from the young folks that you give time to in the radio club from the high school talk about it. And so I thought, there's really not a lot of events that have as much major impact and celebration than that, and that's probably one of the things that you have to highlight that doesn't happen everywhere. I mean, I think it happens, in the southeast corner and some of the smaller communities in Nebraska always do a great job, and I think sometimes that goes unnoticed. And so all those little things are very, very important to honor a really group of men and women that sacrifice their lives. For me, it's a special time because I have a father who passed away in World War II. And, I think the hardest part about that situation is he was one of the group that really didn't come home and share a lot with his wife, my mother, or the kids. The only time that he really bonded and really opened up about World War II was to my son, who is in the military and has, been on at least 5 deployments. But I remember when he got back from either Iraq or Afghanistan, the two of them would go someplace and they had this conversation because they had a bond. And I wasn't allowed to talk. I wasn't even allowed to listen. But I think that was very therapeutic for both of them. And so, I just hats off to American Legion, hats off to all the veterans, and hats off to the community that supports Veterans Day.
Very well said. Very well said. I know I was sharing with the mayor right before we went on the fact that I was driving by our courthouse yesterday afternoon, and my heart just kind of sank because they were taking the flags down, packing it up, and it's like, oh, do we got to put them away already? Because it is such a sight to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And think about that. Think about the volunteers that get
Yes.
up, they put the flags out. Wednesday they have to put them away, and they put them away with respect. And I hope this is the toughest part that I see for everyone. Some point in time, we need to make sure that there is a generation behind us that takes on that same obligation, because I know some of the gentlemen that put up the flags have been doing it for a very long time, and thank goodness they did it. Because I know I was at an event, and one of the people that put the flags up was saying, I'm a little sore after putting up all those flags, and he was about my age, and I thought, I understand that. So hopefully, we will instill some of that pride and some of that veteran celebration in some of the younger folks that will take on that shepherding of the flags, because it is really cool.
It is quite the sight, both at the courthouse and at the Veterans Park. And just a huge shout out and a thanks to those who
That's right.
who put those flags up and take them down and make the display what it is. It's just beautiful. So.
Absolutely.
All right, so I've been hearing some comments lately, Mayor, about our playgrounds here in Beatrice, and I know we've kind of mentioned a couple times on the program about the new playgrounds going up, and I've took the time to kind of check some of them out, and they do look pretty nice. They do look very nice.
They're not your typical jungle gym, are they?
Whoa. These are pretty awesome.
They are. They are. With everything, technology and design changes a lot of things. As I've said before, some of the ADA requirements have been opening up the playgrounds to some folks that in the past could not enjoy them. I think as you talked about that topic. I think I have a couple of grandkids that are going to come stay with us Friday and Saturday. So I have a funny feeling that we're going to experience some of the new playground equipment, because they're at that age where they'll really enjoy it as well. But again, it's one of those amenities that we were able to plan ahead and get a grant for. One of the things that we, again, try to always do is we take a look at all of our assets that we have, and playgrounds are certainly an asset and an amenity to the community. And we want to make sure they're in A, good shape, and B, they serve our community well. And just like everything else, after 20 or 30 years, it's time to replace those things. And we're very fortunate. Mark Pethod has done a great job of organizing and deciding, really which playgrounds need replaced, which playgrounds don't need replaced, and continues to move all of the properties and keeping all of the, you talk about a big job. Not only is it the parks, but it's all the buildings that we own. And so, those folks that take care of everything for us do just a yeoman's job once again, helping preserve all that we have. And our parks are beautiful, but that playground is pretty cool.
If you do take the grandkids out, if you go to the Chautauqua one, let me know if you go down the slide. That slide is huge. I want to
Is that a challenge?
I want to know if the mayor, yes. When I saw that the other day, I thought, well, they should have a special ribbon cutting and let the mayor go down first.
You know what? I'm hoping my wife doesn't listen today, because she would be the one that would make me get up to the top of that slide and take pictures all the way down. And then she'd probably post them on Facebook. We will have a good time wherever we end up.
Well, again, I'm seeing some posts on Facebook. People are really appreciating what the city has done. So they definitely are a major neat addition to our parks. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned Chautauqua Park. I think just a little bit about that transformation. It's always been a good park for the camping and family reunions and those type of things. But thanks to the Waterfall Committee and the city, we have a beautiful structure there. We now have new playground equipment, and one of the latest recreational opportunities, we have a nice pickleball court there. Yeah. So, it's gone through a slow transformation that maybe some people haven't even noticed, but it really has changed in the last 3 years.
It has. So if I hear a 911 call over the weekend around the parks, I will assume it's yours.
Believe me, I'm not going to call 911 because that would make the newspaper real easy in the radio.
You'll never hear the end of that one, will you? All right, we'll take a short break. We're going to come back, talk about the 1 and 6 year street plan right after this. Back on Ask the Mayor with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Beatrice City Council will be meeting on Monday night, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And on
6 p.m.
Okay, on the agenda, I understand you're going to be having the 1 and 6 year street plan on that agenda.
That is correct. It's something we do every year. It's, again, we talked about assets, we talked about playgrounds, but if you talk about streets, they have a life expectancy as well. I think, it also depends on, is it an asphalt road? Is it a concrete road? A concrete road, I think, it typically has a shelf life of 35 years, depending on the conditions. And, of course, asphalt, it drops off from there. There's a lot of things that we do to try to recondition, particularly the asphalt roads with armor coating, or the newest thing that we kind of have used is called asphalt mist sealing to seal it, and you'll see how the different colors have looked after they got one from a new one to an old one. But in any event, our city engineer, James Burrows, and our street superintendent, Jason Moore, every year have to put together a 1 and 6 street plan, and that is in years 1 and 2 basically talking about what we're going to do to finish off to improve our streets. One of those things that we do get state funds for, and a 1 and 6 street year plan is required. And so they've done a great job. As a matter of fact, we also have a company that drives every street about once every 5 or 6 years and grades our streets from, basically, if you think about it, it's kind of like going to school, 100 down to F, which is below 60. And when you have as many lane miles as we have to have some logical way that we can improve the streets that need improvement the most. And this program helps us. But, you can't just strictly rely on what the computer spits out and what the drive spits out, because I believe James and Jason actually walk each road, particularly in the 1 and the 2 year plan, to make sure, they really need to do that. And then they'll also check things like the ADA ramps in each one of the intersections and those type of things. And then they build the plan. And, any good year could cost us $5 million to do all that we do in a logical way. So we'll go through that. We'll go over each one of those each one of the years. In particular, the details we'll go over for 1 and 2, and then a little bit more nebulous plans as we move out 3, 4, 5, and 6, because those are going to change.
Is there one big project, one big item that really sticks out that is going to take a little time and a few dollars to do, or is it all pretty well evened out? No,
I think the biggest project is one that we probably have the least amount of control over. I believe that the state has talked about resurfacing Highway 136 or Court Street from about 1st Street through approximately 19th Street. And that will be a pretty major project that will take some time and, unfortunately, disruption, because that's one thing about streets. They will disrupt our lives. But that is one of the things that they have on the plan. And so by them doing that, our 1 and 6, or our first year, is probably pretty well set with them coming in with that. There's going to be a little bit of work on 2nd to 3rd Street at Ella. That's the project that we had a grant funds for. I think 7th Street, we're going to look at Arthur and Monroe. That's another area we're taking a look at. And then another thing that we're taking a look at is we had the ability to purchase 4 lots somewhere out around the Sunridge Drive area. We need to get those streets extended to access those 4 lots, which, nice thing about that is it's actually going to have 6 building lots, because when that was developed, there were 2 lots by the developer that they couldn't get to because they didn't have any streets to it, so it was landlocked. Now we'll be able to unlandlock and allow 2 more lots that the developer that opened that up can have, and then, of course, our 4 lots there. And so that'll help us as we continue the idea of growing the city and providing new building sites for homes.
Okay, all right. Getting back onto like 136 and 77, how much control or how much say-so does the city have as to when those what those projects are going to be doing and when those projects are being done? Do you get much, or is that pretty well the state? What they say goes?
Well, they have the final say, but I do know there's a lot of communication between James and Jason and District 1 Street Roads Superintendent. And, there's also the fluctuation of, in the state's budget, sometimes things move. And so what we think might happen in in 2026 might end up in 2028. But once you move close to this 1 year, it's pretty well set in stone. So it's a constant conversation of more of keeping each person involved. I know there's been 101 rumors out there about replacing bridges.
Yeah.
And they talk about replacing the one on Court Street there. I think, for instance, we have the RAISE grant coming up, and we know that's going to happen probably 3 years from now, 4 years from now as we reroute the highway. We've been able to meet with the state and talk about maybe a coordinated effort so that you don't have a situation where you replace the bridge and it ends up being 4 feet higher than what the developed plans for the reroute were to do. So I know they've planned ahead, and it's really just a kind of a coordinated effort, but at the end of the day, the state does finally have the final say.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, speaking of your 1 and 6 year street plan, we did get a call just now. A listener is asking, a topic that we've touched on before.
Sure.
Are they still going forward with the roundabout at 19th and Lincoln?
19th and Lincoln is not on the 1 and 6 year plan right now. I can tell you that there's been a lot of conversation about that, especially and I drove by that place the other day. We've cleaned up the lot really pretty well.
It looks nice there.
It does.
Yeah.
And, we had to fix the sidewalk because there were some places the sidewalk is, and we definitely want to be pedestrian friendly. There's no question that in the distant future, that is one of the plans that were developed as we looked at Lincoln Street. But at this point in time, there is no roundabout on our 1 and 6 plan.
Okay.
I double-checked that, too, because I've said that several times.
Yeah. Okay.
So
hopefully the listener, hopefully that answers your question. At this time, that is not on the plan.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like a little park there now.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean,
They angled that sidewalk and everything.
In all transparency, one of the things that we do, though, as we plan developments, when we developed Heritage Heights and we bought that property, what you don't want to do is put a roundabout in there 7 or 8 years from now and have to repurchase the ground. Or decide that, whoops, we built a house that now we got to take half their backyard. And so it's easier to plan for something in the future than it is to try to redo what you've not done. And so, there's no question that lot and how we laid out Heritage Heights aligns 6th or 19th Street for a roundabout. But that roundabout is not in our 1 and 6 year plan. That'll be a future decision by people that are in my chair and the administration chair down the road.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be real clear that we did plan for that, but it is not on there.
All right. There you go. Again, thanks to the listener for that question. Speaking of the housing projects, before we take a short break here, how are we coming along on those housing projects? Just a quick update for us?
Sure. By November 30th, we definitely have a Corral Crossing done for the most part. The next step for Corral Crossing will be for us to tally up all of our bills and decide what each lot that we have pinned, because all the survey ought to come in and have to put the pins in the ground and you have your lots. We'll then have to figure out what each lot will basically sell for. That hopefully we'll do sometime in the month of December. Heritage Heights is a little bit behind that, so we're not there yet with Heritage Heights, but we're getting closer. So we are by spring, and maybe the first quarter to the second quarter of the year, we'll have basically all the information we need to have out to start selling lots.
Okay.
So it's exciting.
A couple questions I've heard folks are asking about the ponds. It looks like there's going to be little ponds or lakes at these developments. Maybe you might want to explain how this is all going to work.
Sure. Since the city was a developer for Heritage Heights and Corral Crossing, one of the things we wanted to make sure that we did was lay it out to what our ordinances are today. And also not only our ordinances, but because we're a community of more than 10,000, we have stormwater rules and regulations that the state has laid out that we have to follow. So there's really no question about whether you do that or not. To take care of rain runoff, like in a 3-inch rain, you really have 3 options. You can just let it run off, which is not the right option. Or you can put in a detention pond or a retention pond to catch the water. We're putting in detention ponds, and we're putting it at a slope where most of the time it's going to be dry. And so during those dry periods of time, it really becomes a recreational space, so where you can play, soccer, football, tag, whatever it might be. But when it rains, it catches the water and then lets it slowly drain out so it doesn't impact the storm sewer and the storm water to the point where there's flooding elsewhere. And so that's what those are. Retention pond, of course, would capture the water, and you have to try to keep it full and keep the mosquitoes out. That didn't seem like a great option either. And I guess, quite honestly, and a lot of this I've learned from James Burrows. He presented the 1 and 6-year street plan, and we talked a little bit about this at the BPW meeting yesterday. They can capture the water underground, but that's a pretty major expense that's just not cost effective when you look at the return on investment. So those spots are there. The other thing that I think has caused some concern from people is there's a little bit of a dip or something on, I think it's 15th Street in the new property. That's designed to catch the water and funnel it off. And so it wasn't a whoops by the concrete laying company. And quite honestly, I think the contractor has subcontracted most of the concrete work with RL Team Construction, and they've been doing a really nice job on those properties.
Okay, so things are moving along.
We are moving.
Moving along. Again, before you know it, we'll be seeing houses being built.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Doesn't take long. Okay, I was going to take a break, but I think I got a couple things I want to get on here before the top of the hour. Update on the landfill. We haven't mentioned the landfill for a while, but I understand it is almost ready for business.
I think they've had the final walkthrough, or close to their final, what we call punch list walkthrough. All the things that have to be done yet. It's really looking pretty good. I think it'll be ready to go very shortly. And we will then be able to transfer everything from the north side of the road to the south side of the road. We'll have 2 scales, a way in and a way out. It's going to see a lot of advancements. And I just, again, it's amazing how you think about it. You've got room for 80 years worth of trash in that south side of the road, and we're opening up the first 10 years of that. And like we talked, 50 years from now, when somebody goes on the north side of the road and cuts into there and they find an old something or other, you're going to think, wow, what was this? And might be a unintentional time capsule.
Be surprised what we might learn. Just somebody digs a little bit, huh?
Yeah,
So with the closing of that, then of the old of the present one, as far as like the leaf and the grass clippings, that's still going to remain there.
I believe that is still going to remain there. Yes, okay. And I believe the C&D site is still there. The big branches and trees that people take are still there. So I don't think that will change.
Okay,
but where we take our disposables will.
Okay, coming soon. All right.
That's right.
Okay, and finally, we haven't had an update on how the airport is coming along. We haven't mentioned that for a few weeks. So where are you at on the airport project?
They're continuing to move forward. I think there has been a little bit of a slowdown by the company that's doing that. There's no question it's been a challenging summer and fall, and so we're working through that. The other thing that we did is we rebid the hangar that's supposed to go out there, and so I think we're still waiting for those bids. So it's a little bit behind. We continue to work with the contractor to try to make sure we get everything caught up.
But business as usual at the airport?
Business as usual.
And I know some of the improvements, besides the hangar, what else were they all?
They're working on the apron. They're working on moving the fuel places where you fuel your planes and those type of things. And so, again, I've said this time and time again, but from an economic development standpoint and from a community standpoint, that's one of our hidden gems. Dennis Schmidt does a great job of managing that, and we continue to see a lot of planes, probably more planes than what you think, come in I contend, and I'm probably wrong, but I contend that you can probably land here in Beatrice, get fueled up, and drive to Lincoln to the south end and do what you want to do and drive back and get out of Beatrice before you could a larger airport. Not saying which one.
No, there is no doubt. I know, that our airport is a busy place.
That's right.
Because I know some of the local industries and businesses, like you said, from an economic standpoint, we have a number of companies that use that
Absolutely.
very frequently, don't we?
Yes, we do.
I mean, we have people coming in and leaving a lot.
That and I think some of the things that maybe people don't realize is that we do have, I think it's 2 courtesy cars. So people who fly in have the opportunity, maybe they're going to fuel, and all of a sudden they decide, because really the terminal, I guess I'll call it that, is really, really nice. Maybe we'll have lunch, and so they're able to drive to an establishment here in town and have lunch. So there's a lot of little things that we do that you don't find at a lot of other airports.
Right. And we have a lot of individuals who have the pilot license.
We do, and planes.
Planes, don't we?
That's why we're building a new hangar, is because we don't have room. And we'll continue to try to, hangars aren't cheap. But again, most of the hangar was paid for by an appropriation set aside by Senator Fisher. And so we thank her for that. And it's one of those things we continue to try to move forward and see how other people can help us pay for what we really need.
All right. So thinking everything could be completed by, I know they're a little behind, but
we're hoping before the snow flies. How's that?
Okay.
That's not a really good hard date, but that's the one I'm going to go with.
All right. Sounds like a plan. And speaking of snow, I'm sure our street crews, I think we mentioned last time, I'm sure Jason Moore is probably, even though it's going to be 75 tomorrow, I'm sure they're planning for the winter.
I'm sure he's ready to rock and roll.
One of those things. All right. Mayor, anything else for us this morning before we wrap it up here? We got about a minute here. Less than a minute.
I really don't think so. We continue to make a lot of progress. I think we've had a lot of successes. Again, with successes, there's mistakes, but I've said it again all along. I say it from top to bottom, from our city administrator to dispatch to our people that do all the services for us, do a great job, and we're very thankful. We are a team, and we keep working really hard to help make sure Beatrice is a great place to live.
Again, the Beatrice City Council will be meeting on Monday night, 6 o'clock meeting time.
6 o'clock.
If you'd like to come out and be at the school administration building.
Yep.
So, well, Mayor, have a good day. Enjoy this nice weather.
Thank you. I will.
And don't get hurt.
And you too.
Don't get hurt on the slide now this weekend, okay?
The next time I'm in, if I'm in a cast,
we know what happened.
We know what happened.
All right. Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan with us this morning here on KWBE.